Chapter 26. The Beautiful Joseph. In the Islamic theology, Joseph, the son of Jacob and the brother of the 11 patriarchs of the Jews, is considered to be the most beautiful human being ever created by God. His beauty surpassed that of the woman. The Quran said, "The women in Surah 12, 30-31 cut their hands when they saw how beautiful Joseph was." According to these verses, some Egyptian women were cutting vegetables by their knives at a banquet. When the beautiful Joseph walked in, the women were so enamored with his unmatchable beauty, and therefore they cut their own hands instead of their vegetables. So, in Bombay City, some Sudanese students saw a handsome Ethiopian boy and they were struck by his marvelous beauty and therefore began to call him Sayyidina Yusuf, or our Master Joseph. Some of them were lusting after his remarkable beauty and some tried to go ahead and entice him in sexual deals. Nevertheless, the handsome Ethiopian boy wasn't a gay and hence he frustrated all their efforts. One of those homosexual students was from the dreadful terrorist group of the Muslim Brotherhood. That homosexual terrorist attacked the handsome boy in his bed and tried to rape him. The handsome Ethiopian foreign student happened to be living with him in the same hostel room. Fortunately, the boy called for help and some African students responded and rescued him at the right time. They then called the Bombay police and got the Sudanese terrorist student arrested and thrown behind bars where he belonged. After that shameful incident, the handsome Ethiopian boy had a peace of mind for a while. The Sudanese students continued to lust after him, but no one of them had made a move on him again. However, the troubles erupted again when a Sudanese girl fell headlong in love with the beautiful Joseph. The anger of the Sudanese students had many reasons. It wasn't because the beautiful Joseph wasn't a homosexual, but turned out to be heterosexual, and fell in love with a girl. Also, it wasn't due to the fact that the girl was a Sudanese like them, and none of them got her. In addition, the reason of their wrath could not be attributed to the obvious fact that their girl fell in love with a foreigner. Sudanese students like other Arab students would never permit their girls to fall in love with non-Sudanese students. Many of them had no objections if a Sudanese girl fell in love with a Sudanese boy. But in no uncertain terms would allow a Sudanese girl to fall in love with a non-Sudanese boy. Moreover, they all loved to fall in love with non-Sudanese foreign student girls. Of course, the heart desire of each and every one of them was to fall in love with an Indian girl, which was a rare occurrence. An Indian girl would rather prefer to fall in love with a dog or a pig, but not with a black Arab boy. I know the phrase, black Arab is an oxymoron statement. We need to explain that paradoxical statement. This would help us to explain why the unmatchable lovers, Tariq and Inaz, had failed to cultivate the fruit of their strong love and eventually their roads had parted forever. Islam, by virtue of its class distinctions, had created in Sudan new breed of species of human beings known as black Arabs. If a black man claims that he is a white man or vice versa, you would think that that person is either mentally challenged or sick person. The Muslim Arabs' invasion of Sudan resulted in the country being renamed Arid al-Sud, from which came the name Sudan, or the land of the black people. A new breed of people came to existence and claimed Arabic descent. They are black. From head to toe, they are Africans. However, calling any of them Africans would result in death treats for the insult. You would be likening him to a Zanji, which means a Negro. As we have mentioned, the phrase black Arab is an oxymoron statement. These two words Arab and black cannot exist in the same sentence. The Arab is reddish and Semite. Jews and Arabs are the descendants of Sam, the son of Noah, and that is why they are called Semitic people. The African man is black and Hamitic, descendant of Ham, the son of Noah. White people and Indians, of India, are Japhetic people, the descendants of Japheth, the son of Noah. Having said this, those black Sudanese Arabs considered themselves to be masters and the original African Sudanese, their slaves. This evil form of racism started when Sudan ceased being a Christian country. The conquering Muslim Arabs, as is their custom, treat defeated African Christians as their sabaya, female war captives. As captive women they are subject to being raped without the need of their rapists marrying them. Children born out of these forced unions are called the Awlad al-Jawari, which means the children of black female slaves. Their mixed lineage gave them a lighter dark skin color as compared to the native African Sudanese. Those children would later claim to be pure Arabs and follow in the footsteps of the very people who sired them. Despite the vernacular black complexion and the Afro-African hair, they would still claim to be pure Arabs and direct descendants of the Prophet Muhammad. As we have already seen, Inaz's parents made that claim. Having explained that, let us figure out why those Sudanese students at Bombay University had collectively stood against the union of their Sudanese girl with the beautiful Joseph. Here neither racism, color, or beauty could be the reason. The Ethiopian boy was white and very handsome. In actual fact, to use their own criterion, he was even more beautiful than his Sudanese girlfriend. Well, the first reason for their rage, the boy wasn't a Sudanese. The second reason, the beautiful Joseph wasn't a Muslim. Thirdly, the handsome Ethiopian student was an infidel Christian. Islam allows the Muslim man to marry a Christian woman, but it strongly prohibits a Muslim woman to marry a Christian man. So, their anger was boiled down to a religious reason. For those fanatic Sudanese students, religion is more addictive than drugs. Majority of them are ready and well prepared to die for their Islamic religion. For the sake of upholding the precepts of their religion, they would blow their bodies into smithereens. Therefore, each and every one of them opposed the relation of their Sudanese Muslim girl with the handsome Ethiopian Christian boy. To put an end to such an abominable love affair, those terrorist students turned the city of Bombay upside down and with that turned the life of each one of those two unmatchable lovers into a living hell. Chapter 27. The Most Hated Girl. The beautiful Joseph was an Ethiopian foreign student studying at the prestigious University of Bombay. He was in his first year. He was working towards a medical degree. His mother was a very beautiful Ethiopian woman, while his father was a handsome Greek man. This rare combination had gifted him with the physical virtues of beauty, health, wealth, and strength. He also was very intelligent student. Those intellectual as well as physical virtues, made him attractive and appealing to the opposite sex as well as the same sex. But, as we have already mentioned, he was a heterosexual. Every female student in his class was fascinated by his remarkable looks. Notwithstanding, he fell in love with only one girl and that girl was a Sudanese. She too was a beautiful girl and also a very intelligent student. She was doing medicine at the same college. She also was a freshman student at the Bombay University. Their love affair took place and developed in stages. It began as compassion, developed into help, progressed into understanding, culminated into friendship, and finally climaxed into strong emotional attachment. Accordingly, their love affair wasn't like that of a handsome boy saw a beautiful girl and the two fell in love at first sight. It also wasn't like that of two males got attracted physically to each other and their sexual needs drawn them to one another. It began when the Ethiopian boy noticed that his Sudanese classmate was the most hated and persecuted human being he ever met in his entire life. Her hatred and persecution mainly came from her countrymen and women. Even many Muslim Arab and African students despised her. Every Sudanese student hated her with bitterness and openly persecuted her. By the way, when this report was written, there were 1,400 Sudanese students at the University of Bombay. All of them were Muslims and all from North Sudan. There were also 400 Sudanese Christian students from South Sudan. In those days, Sudan had not yet been divided in two countries. We would ignore the Sudanese Christians because they weren't involved in the problem of that persecuted Sudanese Muslim girl. Each and every Sudanese Muslim student wanted her to be deported back to Sudan. Even, as we shall see later on, the Sudanese embassy tried through legal and illegal means to get her shipped back to her native country. So, the handsome Ethiopian boy began to pity that unfortunate girl. He decided to talk to her and ascertain the driving motives for such reckless hatred by her own fellow citizens. Through other Sudanese students he heard hundreds of stories about her. All those stories were negative. He was told, before she came to Bombay she used to study at the University of Pune and she used to live in an open adulterous relation with other Sudanese boy. He was also informed that she worked as a prostitute in Pune. She used to sell her body to any foreign student who was interested in her. Finally, her father came to India and took her back to Sudan. She then got married to someone from Saudi Arabia. That man knew nothing about her sinful life in India. He took her to live with him in the holy city of Mecca. Although she now was living in the holiest place on earth, she still did many abominable deeds. Her husband discovered that she was calling men to his house in his absence and sleeping with them. She used the internet to invite those Saudi Arabs who were looking for prostitutes. She also practiced cyber sex. In addition, her husband caught her many times having verbal sex with her former Pune sex partner. In consequence of that, her husband often tied her up and severely flogged her. No matter how many times he hammered her, he could not amend her immoral behaviors. Finally, her husband gave her the last warning. He told her under oath, by placing his right hand on the Holy Quran, if he caught her again, he would kill her. Due to the fear of being slain in honor killing, she ran away from his house. She cut her hair and dressed up as boy and fled when her husband was away at work. She then went to the Sudanese embassy and tried to fool the officials by claiming that she came for performing the Hajj rituals, but her passport, visa, and money were robbed at the gun pointing. The embassy officers saw through her deception and reported her to the Saudi police authority. She then changed the version of her story and told the police that she ran away from her house because her husband had sold her as a sex slave to 15 of his Saudi friends. She also falsely accused her husband of being a gay, drunkard, gambler, and pimp. Nevertheless, when the police contacted her husband, they discovered that she lied about him because he caught her red-handed doing cyber sex, talking to her former boyfriend, and calling men to his house in his absence. On the day of her trial, while 2 female guards were transferring her from the jail to the Sharia court, she managed to run away from them. It was her Pune conjugal partner who helped her to escape from those 2 law enforcement officers. After over a month of intensive search for her, the police authority of Riyadh through their intelligence in Sudan came to know that she had travelled by a UN ship from Yemen to Sudan. Her husband also came to know some of the UN workers, had smuggled his wife along with her boyfriend in one of their refugees' aid ships and helped them to return to Khartoum. His wife agreed to have sex with some of those UN workers in exchange of smuggling her with her boyfriend in their aid ship. Her husband first tried to convince her father to send her back to him. But, the father said his daughter refused to return to her husband's house and wanted to be divorced. Her reason for divorce given, she wanted to marry her Pune boyfriend. The husband refused to divorce her and took the matter to the Sharia court and demanded the issuing of hukm al-tat against his disobedient wife. The Sharia court looked into the matter and passed the obedience sentence against the ran-away wife. Consequently, the Riyadh Police Authority issued an arrest warrant and forwarded it to the Khartoum Police Authority. When the Khartoum police went to apply the hukm al-tat on the disobedient wife, she broke the window of her room and fled again. The police searched for her in every place in the capital city, but they couldn't find her. After a few months, the same bad girl arrived in Bombay along with her father and got admission at one of the most outstanding medical colleges. No Sudanese boy or girl before her or after her had obtained an admission in any medical college in the University of Bombay. Some Sudanese parents offered to pay thousands of dollars, but their children's applications were rejected. No one knew why only that Sudanese girl got such a coveted seat in the most prestigious medical college at the University of Bombay. Some rumors said because the adulterous Sudanese girl agreed to sleep with the principal of the medical college. The principal was a married man. He was 70+ years old when the Sudanese girl agreed to sexually entertain him. It wasn't one-time deal. As long as she was studying in his college, she had to continue to be under his pick and call. Chapter 28. The Nasty Rumors. Those nasty stories and many more rumors had led the beautiful Joseph to try to find out by himself the true story from the false one. By the way, whether it was intentional or mere coincidence, the real name of the handsome Ethiopian boy was Joseph Abraha. Also, I don't think I need to tell who was the most hated Sudanese girl. As we have already mentioned, Joseph and Inaz's love affair developed gradually from a mere mixture of compassion and curiosity to a powerful emotional attachment. There was not a single day passed without Joseph hearing 2 or 3 new nasty stories about his classmate Inaz. Every morning and every evening, whenever he went to have his breakfast or dinner in the hostel cafeteria, the beautiful Joseph would hear some ugly reports about the infamous Sudanese girl. Joseph was staying in the International Students' Hostel. There were 500 foreign students in that hostel, of whom 200 were Sudanese. And whenever the beautiful Joseph came to have his meals, 6 to 8 Sudanese students would join his table and 2 would order their food. Sometimes, some of them just sat near him and stared at his perfect form and imagined all kinds of fancy possibilities. Even those who were living outside the international hostel and those visitors from other cities came over there to have a glimpse of look on the marvelous beauty of the Prophet Joseph. So, the Ethiopian Joseph was a kind of a Bollywood celebrity in the foreign students' hostel. Nevertheless, when the beautiful Joseph became friendly with the despicable Inaz, he lost half of his fans. Over a night, he was transformed from an angel to a demon. Before we narrate the heavy persecution he faced in consequences of his friendship with the infamous Sudanese girl, we have first to tell how such unlikely relation happened. Inaz was a Sudanese Muslim and a married girl, while Joseph was an Ethiopian Christian and a single boy. First of all, no Sudanese girl would dare to be friendly with non-Sudanese boy. Even if that boy happened to be a Muslim like her, she wouldn't dare to fall in love with him. As far as my knowledge is concerned, it happened one time in the Indian city of Pune that a Sudanese Muslim girl fell in love with a Palestinian Muslim boy. The lovers were attacked and badly battered by other Sudanese Muslim students. Nonetheless, the lovers stood firmly in their love relation. They took the matter to the Indian law enforcement and got many of their perpetrators arrested. After that, the lovers got married. By having halal marriage, they expected the cause for their persecution would end. Even so, the Sudanese students informed the girl's brother, who was working at the state of Qatar. The brother at once flew from Doha city to Pune city and took his sister, and on the following day he shipped her back to Khartoum city. Without divorcing her from her Palestinian husband, a week later, the sister was contracted in marriage to her cousin brother. Her new husband was a jobless and had never been to school all his life. Secondly, no Muslim girl would do such an abomination as Inaz did by being a girlfriend to a Christian boy. This restriction is imposed by the Holy Scripture of Muslims. The Quran says, "O ye who believe! Take not the Jews and the Christians for friends. They are friends one to another. And whoso among you takes them for friends is indeed one of them. Verily, Allah guides not the unjust people." Surah 5, verse number 52. The eminent Muslim scholar, Sheikh Muhammad al-Hanoudi, member of the North American Fiqh Council, state, "If Allah is the one who prohibits a Muslim woman from marrying a non-Muslim, then we as Muslims are supposed to believe it and to take it. As a matter of faith, you cannot become a Muslim unless you accept everything when it is ordained by Allah or carried out by His Messenger." The Quran says, "O ye who believe! Put not yourselves forward before Allah and His Messenger." Surah Al-Hujurat, 49, 1. The eminent Muslim scholar, Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, in his well-known book The Lawful and the Prohibited in Islam, states, "It is haram, forbidden, for a Muslim woman to marry a non-Muslim man, regardless of whether he is of the people of the book, Jews and Christians, or not. We have already mentioned the saying of Allah, and do not marry your girls to idolaters until they believe, Surah Al-Baqarah 2, 221. And he also said concerning the immigrant Muslim women, then if you know them to be believers, do not send them back to the unbelievers. They are not lawful for them, as wives, nor are they lawful for them, as husbands, Surah Al-Mumtahana, 60, verse 10. Accordingly, the Muslim girl Inaz had broken the commandment of her holy Quran by doing 3 abominable deeds. Firstly, she took an infidel Christian as a friend. Secondly, the verse said, by taking a Christian as a friend, Inaz became indeed one of them, the Christians. In other words, she took one step towards becoming an apostate. Thirdly, worse than that, she had done that while she was still married to a Muslim man. Fourth, she had already committed many sinful and shameful deeds in Pune city, in Riyadh city, and in Khartoum city. Nonetheless, her former sinful life was nothing as compared to her love affair with the uncircumcised infidel Christian Joseph. Therefore, the Sudanese Muslim students knew that, if they wouldn't act quickly and stop that unacceptable and religiously impermissible love affair, Inaz might take the ultimate step and convert to Christianity, and by doing that bring the downfall of Islam and Muslims in India. Some Muslims believed that, if a single Muslim converted to Christianity, the world would come to an end. Also, there were Muslims who believed that, it had never happened in the long history of Islam, that a single Muslim man or woman had converted to Christianity. Chapter 29. The New Friend. Leaving those fanatic students aside, let us now see how the so-called abominable love affair started. Joseph Abraha tried to come close to his classmate Inaz and talk to her, but she always avoided him. Nonetheless, in order to engage her in a friendly banter, he had to trick her. So, he began to tease her by saying some remarks about her being serious and aloof girl. He said to her, Ethiopians hold the notion that every Sudanese girl believed that, if she just spoke with a boy she would become impregnated by him. Although, it was a silly joke, still Inaz laughed and told him, okay, I am speaking to you now, and I believe nothing is going to happen to me. No, it is not only one time speaking. They mean if she speaks with him time and again, then something is going to happen. Something like what? Something like love affair. We Ethiopians heard that, Sudanese people consider love between the man and woman is a serious crime punishable by the law. Although Inaz knew there was some truth of what he had said about the social life in Sudan, still she tried to refute his claim. That is totally wrong. I have fallen in love with a boy and no one stopped me or sent me to jail. But, most probably you didn't marry your lover. Your parents had arranged your marriage with a boy whom you didn't love. Inaz was shocked when the handsome Ethiopian boy told her exactly what had happened in her life. Even so, she continued to defend her people and society. Don't think every Sudanese girl cannot marry her lover. Of course some girls can do. But I am talking about you. Have you married your lover? Inaz hesitated before she admitted she hadn't. Why did you listen to your parents and left your lover and married a man whom you didn't love? Because we are unmatchable lovers. Moreover, the boy I have married, is my first cousin. What do you mean by unmatchable lovers? Even if I tell you, still you won't understand it. You need to be a Sudanese to understand what I mean by unmatchable lovers. Although you haven't tell me, still I can make a guess. I think your lover is a Christian boy. I know Muslim girls are forbidden to marry non-Muslim boys. Yes, Islam doesn't permit Muslim women to marry Christian men. But, my boyfriend is a Muslim like me. Then why you didn't marry him? I would if I could. But what? Why do you want to know that? And why do you ask me all these personal questions? Inaz spoke those words impatiently. Oh, sorry dear. I hope I haven't hurt your feelings. It is okay. I don't blame you for anything. I just hate my past life. Please, if ever you speak to me again, refrain from talking to me about love. I hate the word love. The first conversation was ended on a sour note. Joseph Abraha avoided talking to Inez for some times. He felt that she had blocked his inquiry in her personal life. Initially, he wanted to talk to her about her past life, but she put a secured lock on the door of her past. It was Inez herself who resumed the conversation again. So, Inez said smilingly, I haven't become pregnant even though we talked for over an hour last Monday. Come on Inez, Joseph spoke happily, today is Friday. Just 5 days have passed since we talked. At least we need to talk for a month, then you can go for a pregnancy test. So, you are another naughty boy. It means you aren't so reserved and innocent as all girls say about you. Why the girls are talking behind my back? Every girl wishes to talk to you, but they all said, you are ignoring them because you are reserved and very likely in love and engaged to someone in Ethiopia. I have no fiancé or lover at home. Then why don't you have a one here? After all foreign students are crazy after Indian girls. They are more beautiful than Arab and African girls. Not me. If I fall in love with a girl, then my love would be motivated by her inner beauty and not her external looks. Wow! You are just like me. I have fallen in love with a boy, which everyone hated him and called him a black crow. But I love him because he has a very good nature. So, I have fallen in love with his inner character. Still you couldn't able to marry him because, as you said, he doesn't match you. Do you want to know why we are unmatchable lovers? Yes, please tell me, if that won't hurt your feelings. He is an African Sudanese boy, and I am Arab girl. So, what is wrong of being an African? I am an African and I have an Ethiopian mother. In Sudan, Arabs would never give their girls in marriage to Africans. That is a racism. Yes, it is racial bias, but girls in my country have no choice except to follow their family's choices, and marry what their parents choose for them. So, I can't fall in love with a Sudanese girl because I am an African. No, not you. A boy like you, if he is a Muslim, can marry a Sudanese Muslim girl. But I am an African. No, you don't look like an African. You are even more white than the Arab Sudanese. So, because of the black color, the Sudanese African boys are unmatchable with the Sudanese Arab girls. You really hit the nail on the head. Inez, I really want to meet you outside the college and talk to you. Talk to me about what? About many things. I just want to hear the version of your life story told by you. To be frank with you Inez, I heard many bad things about you, spoken by your own countrymen. But, I don't believe that they have told the truth about your sad past life. Your face reveals suffering and abuses. It also tells me you are an innocent girl. I believe you have been terribly abused by your own people. But, if I tell you about my life story, what difference you can make? No one can change my past life. Even God cannot change our past. You are wrong Inez. You need to speak out and expose those evil people who abused you. Also, you need to stand up and fight against those students who spread nasty rumors about you. Inez wanted to speak, but she got choked with grief and her tears blocked her vision. She felt Joseph's hands held her hands. He then said softly, "Can we meet on Saturday evening at the Queen Necklace near the International Students' Hostel?" Inez didn't say yes. She just nodded her head in agreement. Chapter 30. Stand Up. The first time, the terribly abused and persecuted Sudanese girl Inez met the beautiful Ethiopian boy Joseph at the Marine Drive. It was Inez who changed the place of their first meeting. She knew that, the Sudanese students like flies hovering all over the areas around the International Students' Hostel. They just like to hang over there and tease every girl ventured in that place. Some of them would follow the Indian girls for miles staring lustfully at their backsides. So, Inez talked to Joseph on the following day and requested him to meet her near Chowpatty Beach at the Marine Drive station. She knew and understood that she would be digging her own grave if those Sudanese terrorist students spotted her talking to a boy like Joseph Abraha. They would immediately jump to the conclusion that she was trying to entice the extremely handsome Ethiopian boy. They would not only attack her, they might as well harm the innocent boy. Just behind the bridge at the beautiful Arabian Sea shore, Inez sat near the most beautiful boy she ever had seen, and thrown the door of her heart wide open, and began to narrate her tragic life story. Her tears were continuously running and her throat was choking again and again. Many times, Joseph comforted her and assured her she had done nothing by falling in love with her African neighbor Tarek. For the first time, Inez found someone other than her lover who was ready to listen to her and also believed in everything she was saying. Joseph didn't try to take advantages of a girl who was hated by everyone. He perceived that nothing could take her out of the grave she had been buried in it up to her neck except a sincere love of a man. Even so, Joseph kept himself at reasonable distance. He sat near her, but his body never touched her body. The two of them were surrounded by Indian lovers from all directions. Every couple of those young Indians were freely kissing each other on the lips and the Indian police were protecting them. If the handsome Joseph took her in his arms and kissed the pain and suffering out of her being, Inez wouldn't refuse him. The first, the second, the third, and even the fifth meeting of the new friends went unnoticed by those unrighteous police of Allah. By then, Inez's heart once again began to beat with love. It was a new kind of love. It wasn't a selfish love. It wasn't an erotic love. It also wasn't a passionate love or lust for the beauty and the body. It was the kind of love which the Bible says about it: love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. In a mere span of 5 weeks, Inez's life was dug from the grave and placed in a throne. She was transformed from the most hated girl to the most loved girl in the entire world. The beautiful Joseph shed his marvelous beauty and aromatic fragrance on the dead soul of Inez and resurrected her back to life. Inez realized that Joseph wasn't a passive lover like her former lover. Her lover Tarek twice had forsaken her and left her dying under the hands of her cruel father and walked away. He also accepted the unfair evaluation of his racial society about him. He never once asked her to forsake her cruel father and elope with him. He just passively accepted that he was an unmatchable lover. In other words, Tarek and many African Sudanese accepted, without protest, that they were inferiors to the so-called black Sudanese Arabs. The latter still acting as the masters of the former. It was Joseph who began to change Inez's attitudes towards African Sudanese. He told her that she was too indirectly involved in that unfair evaluation of her lover Tarek. Why did she tell Tarek from the beginning that they were unmatchable lovers? Why did she fall in love with someone she believed he was inferior to her? Why did she agree to marry her cousin when neither he nor she loved each other? Why did she return again to her abusive and cruel father after she ran away from her evil husband? Why she didn't learn from her first mistake? She should have forgotten about her racially biased parents and married her lover Tarek, and the two settled somewhere in the world. In short period of time, the handsome Joseph opened Inez's eyes to so many things in her sad past. He convinced her to stop pleasing her parents and her society and make her own decisions in life. She should get emancipated from the absolute authority of her evil father. Joseph understood that the problems of Inez had deeper implications than her biased society and heartless parents. It was her misogynistic religion, which gave her father, her husband, and those Sudanese Muslim students, the tools to abuse and persecute her. It was the teachings of her Prophet and Quran, which exhibit hatred, dislike, mistrust, and mistreatment of women. Nevertheless, the wise Joseph knew that Inez wasn't yet ready to hear and accept such facts about her religion. Thus, he reserved such information for a future talk. At present, Joseph understood that, his duty as a good friend to Inez, he should free her from the fear of being shamed, mocked, and silenced. She should stand up and fight for her right. The time of pleasing others should end and end now. The time of making her decisions in life should begin and begin right away.